Good morning, students. Today, we will talk about Java. The contents of today's presentation would be history of Java and a few new terms. Java was conceived in 1991 at Sun Microsystems Incorporation by five computer scientists, namely James Gosling, Patrick Norton, Chris Worth, Ed Frank, and Mike Sheridan. Though these five scientists helped in developing the programming language Java, it is James Gosling who is considered to be the father of Java. The picture you see below is a picture of James Gosling, together with the iconic logo of Java, which resembles a cup of hot steaming drink. It did take almost 18 months to develop the first working version of Java. Initially called Oak, it was renamed as Java in 1995. And the public announcement of the Java programming language happened in the spring of 95. Let us first understand, why did they think of developing a programming language called Java? In the early 90s, C and CPP were in very much use, with its own disadvantages and problems. The need for a platform-independent, architectural neutral language was needed so that software could be created to be embedded in various consumer electronic devices like the microwave ovens, the remote controls, etc. The main problem with C, CPP and the other languages were that they were designed to be compiled for a specific target. Although it was very much possible to compile a CPP program for any kind of a CPU, it required a full CPP compiler targeted for that particular CPU. And the problem with such compilers were it was expensive and even time consuming. So there were a set of people who wanted a much more easier, cost efficient solution. That is when these scientists started to work on a portable, platform independent language which could be able to produce a code which could run on a variety of CPUs in completely different environments or completely different operating systems. That is what mainly led to the development of a programming language called Java. It was in the same period that the World Wide Web, or the WWW, started to emerge. The web demanded portable programs, and Java was the next best solution. Though Java and CPP are found to be similar on many aspects, Java is not an internet version of CPP. Java has a significant array of practical and philosophical differences with CPP. Though true that Java was influenced by CPP, it is not an enhanced version of CPP and it is not an internet version of CPP. Java is in no way compatible upward or downward with CPP. But of course, there are similarities between Java and CPP. If you are a CPP programmer, you will find it very much easy to start developing code in Java. Java was also not designed to replace CPP. Java was designed to overcome many problems which CPP had. Let us now go into a new term called bytecode. Bytecode is considered to be Java's magic. It is the instruction set for the Java Virtual Machine or the JVM. JVM is an engine that provides a runtime environment to drive Java code or Java applications. As soon as a Java program is compiled, a Java bytecode is generated. Java bytecode is nothing but a machine code, zeros and ones, which is in the form of a dot class file. Java programs are saved in the extension .java or .java, and the bytecode is in the form of a dot class class file. It is with the help of the Java bytecode that we are able to achieve platform independence in Java. This is easily explained with the help of a diagram. Let us imagine a program, Hello World, written in the Java code. Any program in Java is written in the extension .java, as I told you earlier. So we will be having a hello world.java. It is compiled with the Java C compiler. Compiling happens through a Java C compiler, and it is converted into bytecode. As you know, bytecode happens in the dot class. So your .java file is now converted into a hello world.class file. And this class file is taken by the JVM or the Java Virtual Machine. The JVM understands the bytecode, and the JVM helps your program to be run on any different kind of OS. It could be a Windows OS, it could be a Linux OS, or it could be a Mac OS. So let us start from the beginning once again. With the help of your bytecode and the JVM, your Java program can run either on a Windows machine or a Linux machine or a Mac machine. That is why Java is called WORA, W-O-R-A. Write once, run anywhere. You write your program once and you're able to run it anywhere on any platform. Let us now come to three new terms: the JDK, the JVM, and the JRE. They are actually components of a super subset. We already know what is a JVM, a Java Virtual Machine. Java Virtual Machine, together with your libraries, the class libraries, which could include your jar files, all that which we will see later, or any other kind of libraries, together they are called the JRE, the Java Runtime Environment. So to be very simple, JVM plus libraries constitute your JRE. The JRE, together with the Java compiler, the Java disassembler, the Java P, the Java documentation or the Java docs, the Java debugger, together constitute the JDK, Java Development Kit. So we'll go once again. JVM plus libraries equal to JRE. JRE plus compilers, documentation, debugger, disassembler, etc. equal to JDK. Let us now move on to the internal working of a Java program. As we earlier saw, Java code, which is written in a .java file, with the help of your Java C compiler, is converted into the bytecode zeros and ones, and it is now in a class file, a .class file. So your simple.java, with the help of the Java C compiler, is converted into a simple.class file. Now let us see what happens with this class file. This class file is loaded onto the machine and the bytecode is verified. Once the bytecode is verified, the Java interpreter comes into place. And once the program is interpreted by Java, it is fed into a runtime environment which goes into a hardware-specific operating system. In the next video, we will see what is meant by a Java interpreter.